there, and I hadn't seen him in a better light since then. So
sometimes that's what you get to at those horror conventions. And speaking of horror conventions, since you've kind of done the loop of them, can you talk about some of the people you've met at these things? Because, all right, you've got your class of people that you said are like weirded out by your interest and things like that. But then there's the other side of it, and there is a hardcore group of like serial killer fanatics, people out there. Talk about the various kinds of people you've met at these horror conventions, you know, when they find out what you do or what you've done.
Well, let me tell you my first horror convention, right? I hadn't been long out of the military. I did 6 deployments when I was in the military, and I had severe PTSD, you know, and I was not on any kind of medication, and I was a nut. I was a maniac, and they set me at a table right next to Robert England, and it's kind of like, you know, I had a huge problem with that because Robert's line was like, I wish they would have put me near the bathroom. You know, it's my first one, you know. But they put me next to this guy, and he's got like 2,000 people. And I know I'm exaggerating the number there, but he's got a lot of people in line. I had nobody. And so at that time, you know, I flipped the table over, and, you know, I kicked the backboard, and I said, you know, screw this, I'm gone. And Elvira actually came over there, and she flipped the table back over, you know. So she's probably the coolest person that I've ever met. Yeah.
Interesting. I've never even gotten to meet her. She's been at several conventions in my area, but I've yet to meet any of them, unfortunately, or meet her at them.
Yeah, and she's you know, I did the whole circuit, and the fans are amazing, man. I love the horror fans. One of the things about the horror fans is and why I keep doing horror. So they don't forget, you know, they'll love you forever or they'll hate you forever. You know, if people hate me, they're going to hate me forever. But either way, they're still going to be curious about what I'm doing, you know. And the people that love you, they're going to love you forever. And they got a loyalty that other fans don't have in other, you know, like comedy and action and stuff like that. So.
Hey, to swing it back to Ed Gein, kind of talk about what sets him apart from a lot of the other serial killers as far as the public view of him, because of course, you know, we talked about what his possible body count was, but the known body count's pretty low compared to a lot of the other people out there, whether it's Gacy or Bundy or whoever, Ridgway. But for some reason, Ed Gein stays in people's consciousness. Why is that? Is it because of the just the macabre nature of his crimes? Even you know, what was it?
I think what sets him apart is the fact that he got creative with the bodies. You know, like I think he took a very Native American approach to it. You know, let's not waste nothing. You know, and whereas the other serial killers would discard the bodies, with Ed, he would preserve different parts, and he would even eat it. He would eat, you know, body parts and stuff like that. So he took a very Native American approach to what he was doing with the body, you know. Like the Native Americans, when they would kill an animal, they would try to use every part of that animal. So with Ed taking the skull, and from what I was told, you know, he ate out of the skull. Well, I mean, you know, he was utilizing everything, and that's one of the main things that set him apart. Ed's just one of them guys, man, that, I mean, to me, he's like the top in the serial killer. I mean, because, you know, at that time, in the town that he was in, you know, those people, I mean, you can only imagine. They put him in the mental institution or whatever, but, you know, he was, to me, a genius. You know? I can respect the way that he showed respect to the bodies as far as, you know, utilizing every part of their body.
You know, I guess he just looked at them as empty vessels at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was watching some documentaries yesterday, and something kept popping up in my mind. Unless I was severely pissed off at somebody, like, I don't think I would have the stomach to do some of the things that he did. And it got me thinking. I'm like, so what does it take for somebody to be like that? And to me, the thing that came up in my mind is the fact that he, you know, lived in a community where he's a deer hunter, or he lives in a deer hunting community, and of course he was dressing those bodies just like a deer. And so I figure that probably played a huge part in him just having the fortitude within him to be able to even stomach things like that he was doing to these body parts and bodies.
Yeah, everybody says that he was digging up bodies and having sex with them. I find that hard to believe unless he had a huge supply of Vaseline. It's you're not going to get very far on hitting something that's that dry, But you get a warm body. I believe that he was having sex with people who were still alive before he killed them, And when he was stringing up the bodies, I often wonder, since they were upside down and hanging by their ankles, did he sit there and perform oral on them before he gutted them? Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of, it's funny because there's, like, you think about your average questions like, did he have sex with the bodies? Did he eat the bodies? Did he eat body parts? Things like that. And then you start thinking about those other questions, those deeper, even more disgusting philosophical questions that you just threw out there.
I mean, because if it was me, like if I was putting myself in Ed Gein's shoes and I got the woman, and I'm stringing her up and I got her by her ankles, I'm going to have fun before, you gut her, you know what I mean? Once you gut her, the fun's really over with. Then you just got to make use to the bodies, I mean? So you want to go ahead and do what you're going to do, I'd probably wait till she had to urinate and just see how that looked with her hanging up by her ankles like that,
Okay. One of the things to go with that, too, is I would think that he would have taken pictures, although the trophies were all around him. So were there any pictures that he had taken of these I don't know, trophies that he had all laying around, or was it one of those things where it's like, no, it's just kind of my decoration and artwork, I don't need to take pictures of it?
Well, they actually have a box that nobody's been able to get into, an evidence box, and they won't burn it, and I would love to see what's in there. To my knowledge, he didn't take any pictures, but I haven't. That's one question that I really hadn't even thought about. And one of the ladies he killed was Mary Hogan, So I believe that's the lady that was hanging from the in the shed in the picture. It's in the newspaper.
Mhm.
And
and she's the one that he felt that I guess it's theorized resembled his mom, and that was a huge part of it. Is that right?
I mean, have you seen a picture of his mom?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really look alike to me, but I guess it was maybe her demeanor and the way she behaved.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure about that theory. I'll be curious to hear what the professor has to say about that. I just I'm not really sure. I mean, I would like to think, in my admiration for Ed Gein, I would like to think that he definitely had fun with his victims before he killed them.
Mhm. I will tell everybody that the professor's not an Ed Gein expert so much as he is on serial killers, so I may not get too deep into Ed Gein with him, but I will get into a little bit of Ed Gein, just as far as his mental state and things like that, and throw out what he's seen. But you talked about how Ed Gein was really, really smart. Talk about the different types of smart when it comes to these serial killers. Like, there's a lot of serial killers out there that they're like, he was really smart, but he had an IQ, and Ed Gein had an IQ of only 106, but you could tell that there was more to him than that, like in a technical way or a, I don't know, artsy way in this case.
Well, they base that determined on tests, right? Their IQ level, and I mean, I've taken tests before where I kind of just Christmas tree it, And so who knows what his real IQ level was? I mean, they can say, oh, he scored this, so this, but I mean, I would think that Ed probably just didn't feel. He just, to me, don't seem like the kind of guy that would want to take a test.
Yeah.
To me.
And by the way, another question. I don't know if you'd done research on this, and a friend of mine had just emailed us this, and interestingly enough, it was actually led into my next question. And a lot of the documentaries, one of the things they talked about was how his house burned down. Of course, I would assume that was arson before the auction. And then his car was bought and then sold. It was pretty much put on display at a carnival. Do you know where that car is now? Is that still going on to this day anywhere?
I do not know where that's at. Actually, that's you just typed in there a question that I have two questions I haven't even thought about: the photographs and the car. I don't know where the car is. I would love to see it on tour somewhere. it's just, I don't know if your fans that are listening now, I don't know if they realize that I do paranormal research as well. And man, wouldn't it be great to be able to channel Ed, and have a conversation with him.
Oddly enough, yesterday was the anniversary of his death. So in 1984, Ed passed away. So yesterday was the anniversary of that, and we didn't even plan it that way. It just kind of came out that way. How bizarre is that? Oddly enough, yesterday was the anniversary of his death. So in 1984, Ed passed away. So yesterday was the anniversary. Hear me in the background. I'm not sure what.
So what is that?
Back in. I don't know. I hear myself in the background from someone,
hear you too.
not me. Okay. Whatever it was, it went away. Anyway, but yesterday was the anniversary of his death.
And what I want to shine some light on too is I have I just did a book on Vlad the Impaler. And a lot of people might not know, but Vlad was given a thank you letter after he impaled 20,000 people by Pope Pius II. The Pope thanked Vlad for doing that. And that's I know that's probably another show, but it's I just want to put that out there because it's fresh on my mind, and I'll definitely give away 2 of those books if you wanna put it out there, but
Yep. In hour number 2, we will throw out 2 more codes for everyone listening live. So those books will be in circulation for sure. Interestingly enough, that's one of our options to talk about in October. We like to do, and again, I'll say serial killers, but it covers a large variety of different, people, whether it's Vlad the Impaler, whether it's Elizabeth Bathory, whoever it may be, Jack the Ripper, people like that. So, October should be an interesting month if we can, do a show on one of them. Maybe we can pull you in to talk about it again. But in the meantime, so I will ask you, as far as Ed Gein goes, why do you think it is that, so we've had all these Ed Gein inspired movies, such as Texas Chainsaw, such as Silence of the Lambs to some extent, Psycho, all that. Why do you think it is that there hasn't been a movie about him that's done on a larger scale? Of course, I know there's a couple out there, but I'm talking about one that's mainstream, one that's actually released. Is it just too disgusting of a story for the world to handle, or what's the deal?
No, I don't think so, because people handle Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal. They handle that stuff pretty well. I would love, again, going back to my favorite actor as far as serial killers and slasher guys, Kane Hodder, he did an Ed Gein film, and it sucked, And
yep, I was watching that just the other day.
It was horrible, and I would like to see a really good big budget Ed Gein film out there for sure, and just to tell the story the way that it should be told. I don't think it's too disgusting for the people to think about the cannibalism and stuff. I think what people try to stay away from was the fact that he was screwing his mom. So how can you tell the story without putting that in there? And that's why they not. I think, in my belief, that's why they haven't done it. Because if you're going to do a true story about Ed Gein, you got to put in there he was banging his mom. Bottom line, they were going at it, and they've been going at it since he was young. And that's why he became who he became.
Do you think Henry was also, or was it just Ed?
Yeah, I think both of the boys got. I think that's why Henry had the resentment against his mother that Ed didn't have. I think Ed fell in love with his mother. I think Henry started resenting his mother, and that's why Ed killed Henry. That's my belief. I think that that's where their argument came from. They were both hitting the same piece of pussy, and it's kind of like, okay, Ed fell in love with it. It's probably his first piece of ass he had, whereas Henry probably had other pieces out there, And what can you do? Henry was pissed off, and Ed wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that Ed killed him, and I figured it was some sort of dispute over their mom, because you could tell Henry had some sort of backlash towards her, whereas Ed, I mean, they talked. I had read different